And the U.S. is surging more firepower to the Middle East as Operation Epic Fury rages on. So a short time ago, Centcom posting this video alongside the caption, U.S. combat power is building as Iranian combat power declines. Commander Admiral Brad Cooper touting the impact of its air campaign.
In just the last 72 hours, America's bomber force has struck nearly 200 targets deep inside of Iran, including U.S. B-2 bombers dropped dozens of 2,000-pound penetrator bombs targeting deeply buried ballistic missile launchers. Notably, we've also struck Iran's equivalent of Space Command, which degrades their ability to threaten Americans. Compared to where we were at start, ballistic missile attacks have decreased by 90% since day one. Drone attacks have decreased by 83% since day one.
And Jennifer Griffin has more from Washington. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, Dana. Well, Secretary Hegseth visited Centcom headquarters in Tampa yesterday and spent several hours in the Operations Center getting a brief from Admiral Brad Cooper, who is the Centcom commander overseeing this complicated and integrated operation using land, air, and sea forces. Just as the press briefing started last night, Admiral Cooper said the U.S. had struck an Iranian drone carrier, seen here, roughly the size of a World War II aircraft carrier. It was still on fire as the press briefing began.
Our strikes against the Iranian Navy have intensified. You may have heard the president say just a little while ago that we have sunk or destroyed 24 ships. That was true at the moment. We're now up over 30 ships.
Secretary Hegseth said the amount of U.S. air power over Iran is about to surge dramatically, in part due to being able to base the B-52 and other heavy bomber strike aircraft on British bases like Diego Garcia and in the Indian Ocean and Fairford in the U.K., cutting the flying distance from the U.S. to Iran in half.
It was unfortunate that that the Brits didn't, from day one, say, hey, go ahead and have access, but we got there. We got there, and that's now part of the way that we're operationalizing bomber runs. And that's part of when we say more to come, it's more fighter squadrons, it's more capabilities, it's more defensive capabilities, and it's more bomber pulses more frequently.
According to the British Constitution, the UK is not allowed to participate in a preemptive strike or war of choice unless there is an imminent threat. Once Iran began firing missiles at allies in the Middle East in its initial response, legally the UK could offer its bases as part of its responsibilities under collective defense agreements. The UK granted permission for the US to use its bases on Sunday within 24 hours of being asked. Dana?
All right. Jennifer Griffin, thank you. So retired Brigadier General Rob Spaulding was a B-2 stealth bomber pilot. Extensive history in national security for the United States. It's great to have you with us, General. Thank you for joining us. You know, when you listen to Brad Cooper, the commander in charge, the admiral commander in charge right now, talk about how we have hit these targets, I think this has just been an extraordinary lesson in American capability for the American people watching all of this. Your thoughts?
Well, it just demonstrates our ability to find, fix, and engage those targets and take them out. You know, the intelligence required, the mission planning, of course, the professionalism of the crews is absolutely paramount to doing this. And it demonstrates why the United States really has the only force in the world that's able to continuously, on a day-to-day basis, provide these kinds of effects, really until the commander-in-chief says stop.
You know, I want to play for you. This is the foreign minister of Iran, Abbas Araghchi, who has been defiant in his response to this. And he basically is saying, bring it on in terms of ground forces. So let's play his soundbite and then follow it up, if we can, with President Trump's response. Here we go.
Are you afraid of a U.S. invasion in your country?
No, we are waiting for them.
You are waiting for the U.S. military to invade, the ground troops?
Yes, because we are confident that we can confront them, and that would be a big disaster for them.
And here's President Trump, who called that a wasted comment and suggested that an invasion is not something he is thinking about at this time. It's a waste of time. They've lost everything. They've lost their Navy. They've lost everything they can lose, said President Trump on that. Your reaction to that, General?
Well, I think it's bluster, and I think the president has no intention of putting ground troops in Iran. I think we can achieve the objectives that have been set out, which is basically prevent them from being able to attack either us or their neighbors. The things that I'm concerned about are, how many Iranian sleeper cells are in the United States now. We've seen attacks on data centers, so strategic infrastructure is something that I'm concerned about in this effort. But I don't think that we are going to insert ground troops in Iran. And furthermore, I think it would actually be it would be detrimental to our overall focus there.
So in terms of national security at home, you just mentioned the presence of these sleeper cells. I guess the question is how concerned are you about that, and how good are we at stopping them? They can be very autonomous.
Well, I'm very concerned, and quite frankly, we have spent very little time and effort on hardening the country. We've been very focused on pushing forces away, but in terms of protecting the electrical grid, our telecommunications networks, our data centers, upon which our entire economy, really the global economy, relies, we have been very lax in that. And so I'm hoping that this will spur us to do something about that.
How degraded is Iran's ability to oversee those kinds of operations, given what they're dealing with at home, which is really devastation of these missile sites, devastation of their Navy, all of that, in terms of cyber command and the ability to do intelligence strikes? What's your assessment?
Well, I think, they've been engaged in these proxy fights for a long time. And so I do think that they use some execution of mission type orders, which means do what you can and what you have the capacity to do without receiving any words from us. So I don't think that, they're going to necessarily have to say, hey, do this or that. They have people that are trained, they're opportunistic. They have the capability. Certainly, the opportunity is there, and so I think we have to be vigilant on our side, and we have to do what we think we need to do in terms of protecting the country. One of the things that I'm very concerned about is the fact that we're not funding DHS. Absolutely crazy at this point.
Yeah, it's a great point. You think about other forces like Al-Qaeda, for example, that didn't have the structure to fight a big power, but they had their network and operations to pull off attacks, and they certainly did that. Thank you very much, General Spalding. Good to have you with us today, sir.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube, and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.